Today's command workshop is transactions, how to manage transactions in command. We're going to go through step by step how to actually create the transaction first, and then we'll get into how to select your documents checklist, how to upload documents, how to utilize DocuSign, what is the best workflow to do your transaction, and that's where you'll come in super handy since I have not done a transaction. And we'll get started. The first thing that you need to know is that you need to have a contact in command with your client's information before you can create the opportunity or sales pipeline, which is where we actually are going to upload the paperwork to. So again, you want to have the contact in here first. If you are on a team, your team may have personal opportunities disabled, in which case you need to have the contact under the team in order to be able to create a team opportunity. The rule in command is you can only create a team opportunity if it's a team contact. If you want to create a personal opportunity that your rainmaker cannot see, which a lot of teams have disabled, then you can have the contact under your personal account. Okay, and if you need to transfer a contact to the team in order to create that team opportunity, you can actually select them right here and then bulk action, scroll to the bottom. It's the last option to change account. And we can change the contact, put them in the team account, and then you'll be able to create that team opportunity. I get a lot of questions about this, which is why I'm going over it. So if you're not on a team, I'm sorry, this is not relevant to you. All right, next I'm going to go into opportunities, because the next step would be to create that sales pipeline. That's where, again, we are actually going to upload the transaction paperwork to. And we call the sales pipeline opportunities in command. So notice at the top of my page, I have personal opportunities and team opportunities. Once again, I want to remind you, if you're on a team, sometimes personal opportunities are disabled. You may not be able to create one under personal. Also, if you create it under personal, your rainmaker will not be able to see that opportunity transaction. So the best rule of thumb if you're on a team is to go ahead and create it under the team. Again, you'll have just created the contact under the team account. So when I create the opportunity, by clicking this button in the top right corner, it's going to default. Again, I'm under the team, so it defaults to my market center, the team I'm on, and I'm the owner of the opportunity because I'm the rainmaker. If you are not a rainmaker on a team, the owner by default is going to be your rainmaker, and you are going to want to add yourself as an assignee, which it will do by default. If there's anybody else that's going to need to see this opportunity that's on your team, you want to add them as an assignee. Okay. Opportunity type: listing, buyer, landlord, or tenant. We normally don't represent tenants. There's normally not a commission in that for helping a tenant find a rental, but we will help landlords occasionally lease out, rent out a property. If you make a mistake on this step, you will not be able to change it later, and you'll have to recreate the opportunity. I think that's pretty straightforward, but everybody, we're doing things quickly sometimes, and sometimes we make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. So make sure you do the correct selection here. Whatever you select in this step is going to determine the checklist that you have to pick from. So if I select listing, I'm only going to see listing checklist when I get to that step where I'm selecting what type of transaction it is. All right, in client, I'm going to start typing in their name. And it's right now filtering through all of the contacts under my team account contacts. Because again, I'm creating a team opportunity. So here is the name. And then if you have a co-seller, so again, I'm creating a listing. So it's saying co-seller, not co-buyer. You can add that person and attach them to this transaction here. So let's say, actually, I'll just leave it as one client. And then it's her name dash listing by default, and it's a listing, so I know what the address of the home is. So I can add that to the opportunity name as well. You can create your own custom tags for opportunities specifically here. These are some I've created already to give you some ideas: single family, luxury listing, luxury buyer. You may want to create other custom tags for condo, for TIC, or VMR to track how many opportunities you have under each tag. Estimated closed date. Let's say we are aiming to close November 16th. Estimated listing price, let's do 1.5 million. And my commission rate is going to be 3% on this transaction for myself. Opportunity phase and opportunity stage. So you can create opportunities prior to the transaction becoming active. You can use opportunities as soon as someone tells you that they want to buy or sell real estate to try and convert more clients. So it's not only where we do transactions, but also where we manage our hot leads. Let's say we're in the appointment and we have scheduled a meeting. And let's say I need Gabby to be able to see this transaction as well. She going on a vacation and she's going to need to have an eye on this for me. Let's just say, I'm making that up, not going on vacation. All right, now the opportunity is created. I'm going to go back one step. So back to the sales pipeline dashboard. Now you can see under appointment, it shows the number 1. That number 1 is from the opportunity that I just created. So let's say I've gone out of opportunities, I've done something else and I'm coming back and I need to find it again. I can find it here in the dashboard under appointment, under scheduled. And how we can manage this throughout the sales process is I can go ahead and just drag and drop this. I can add in the date that our appointment actually was and what the result was, whether I won the contract. So I can view details to get into the opportunity by clicking that button, or I can click this hyperlinked text. So there are 2 other ways that you can get back to an opportunity aside from the one I just showed you. You can alternatively click all opportunities at the top. This will show you all your personal and team opportunities. So let's see. This one is not that one. I'm going to search by opportunity and the things with Nicole's name. And it's actually this one because I have not yet filled out the address. So I can click into it that way. Now, the other way that I can find this opportunity is by going into the contact that it's connected with. And let's not forget it was actually the contact under my team account. And unfortunately, there were 3 contacts named Nicole Lisa. So now we've got to see which one it is. So let's see if it's the first one. No, not that one. And here's number 2. Not that one. And number 3. All right, looks like it was this one. No, not either of these actually. Okay, so it keeps putting them in a different order based on me clicking on them. I think that's what's happening here. Okay, so that was 6 days ago. Okay, let's see about this one. Yep, here it is. So this is the opportunity that I created. It is going to always be referenced on the contact it's associated with. So I can click this to get back in there. All right, so I'm opening back up to the details of this opportunity. On the left-hand side, there are some dates that I need to fill in, right? I'm going to click edit here. And some of these fields I already had the opportunity to check out, but time frame, let's say it's like 3 months. Appointment scheduled is something that I should have already filled out, right? Because we kept the appointment already. So let's say it was scheduled for September 4th. Let's say we scheduled it the 12th for the 15th. And then let's say they signed the agreement today. So I'm going to fill out those dates. Those will feed into the reporting section of Command if you're tracking your activities. All right, and then I've already filled out the listing price and commission rate, and I will fill these dates out as I actually get there. I'm going to click save. There's a little bit more information I need to fill out, like the property address here. I'm going to click edit right there. I'm going to go ahead and do 123 Main Street, San Francisco. Notice I didn't fill out the country. I am just looking for the address first, and it autofilled the country for me. Also, when something has a unit number, go ahead and look for the address first here, click on it, and then type in and add that unit number and address line too. The reason is because these addresses are coming from Google Maps, and Google Maps does not have the unit numbers on these. So if you try and type in the unit number in line 1, it's never going to find that property with unit number. So just choose the address, type in unit number into address line 2, and then click save at the bottom because everything else autofills. Okay, and then seller worksheet. You can fill out things here, but it's not required. If you're giving a buyer agent's commission, maybe you're giving them 2.5. And let's say I don't have any of the other info yet, and I'm going to click save. If you have any other details that are pertinent, you can add those to this description field. Like if you have a third client on this deal, like a third seller.
Or agent referral.
Or agent referral.
If it was an external referral to me, I put it there and who it's going to, so I don't forget when I'm doing the commission demand.
Yeah, remind yourself later. Or like if this is a special transaction, like if it's a BMR and there are maybe some additional things required. What else, Matt? What are some other reasons you use this?
So I actually use that. So I have my onboarding form that I use. I use a Google form too when a new buyer comes on board that asks them like, how many bedrooms do you want? How much your price point? What neighborhoods? I take all that information, put it in the description. That way it's there and easy for me to reference back to like, what are they looking for again? Because it's you could have a client that might take 6 months before they find the perfect property for them. So it's great to have that information there.
Right, that is a good point. Okay, so the next option on this is the seller profile. This really is just going to tell you if your contact associated with this opportunity is using the consumer platform, either the app, your branded app, or your branded agent website. And they've created an account to search for homes. There's also a guide once they log in and create an account there where they can check off the steps that they've done in the buying or selling process. Works, better for buyers because the main function is to search for homes, but there is a guide for both buyers and sellers. The next section here is documents. Okay. And here is where we start getting into the transaction portion. I do want to mention there's a lot of things that I'm not going over these options here. I'm not going over those. I will go over how to export documents, but these other things, I typically will go over that in the opportunities deep dive. So they don't have much to do with the transaction. So, okay, so documents. Status, we're gonna leave that. Checklist type. This is where you select what type of checklist you're going to need for this transaction based on the type of property. Again, earlier, I selected that this was a listing, and that's how it's decided to pull up these checklists. So if I had selected buyer, it would pull up buyer checklists here. I hope that makes sense to everybody. That makes sense? All right, I'm going to click SF sales checklist. For a listing, there are 3 sections with lists of items that you need for the transaction. If it's a buyer, there will be 3 sections, but the first section, I believe it's contracts, and we don't require that buyer broker agreement. So actually there would be nothing required if it's a buyer in the first out of the 3 sections. So for a buyer, you only need to pay attention to under contract and close. For a listing, there are a lot of things you need before it's under contract. So here is the list. You can see here what's not uploaded, everything, because we just started this. Whether something is required or if it's conditional. And if it's conditional, there'll be this additional note. This one just says if applicable. And then the document name. So it's going to really coincide with that document that you're pulling from zip forms. So if you're a new agent and you're wondering, where do I get these forms? Or how can I find them? You're going to go into car.org and you're going to go into your zip forms account. And you have a zip forms library of car documents and your other local documents for your MLS. And that's where you're going to find these documents. And you'll be able to pull them into your transaction, and you will be able to send them for signing through zip forms. So that being said, we give you all free DocuSign accounts through KW, and I'll tell you how to use those in a few minutes. So also it's going to give you the type of document it is, other disclosure agreement, etc. Now, if you have ever seen this before, they have changed this page. They have changed the navigation of some of the tools that used to be located here. So we used to have a couple buttons right here on some actions you could take, and those have been relocated to these 3 dots here. So under these 3 dots, you'll see some extra things here. Add documents. That would be if the document you need to upload, if it's not listed on the checklist, maybe it's something miscellaneous, maybe it's an addendum that you had our attorneys work up. But if you need to add a document that's not on the checklist, you can go ahead and use this function. Enter the name of the document type, additional note as to why you're adding it. And then either I can manually import it from my computer, or actually that's all I can do at this point really, because I haven't connected this to DocuSign just yet.
Does it come in automatically through zip forms? So if I create a document, no,
No.
so I have to upload it.
It does not, and we'll get to that.
Okay.
So you have to pull it in manually, manual upload only. And when, you know, so keep in mind too, Keller Williams is a worldwide company. This platform is nationwide and Canada. California, I mean, I can't say we're the only state, but car.org, they license and copyright their forms to zip forms for use. They do not license them or give their copyright to DocuSign, which is why for us, it's not that useful that we have free DocuSign accounts, except you can plug that login information for our free DocuSign account into your zip forms and then forms settings as your e-signing tool of choice. So you can use that DocuSign through zip forms. You are able to, there is an integration between our special DocuSign accounts and zip forms. So if you don't want to download them to your computer, you can pull them into DocuSign and then pull them into here. But kind of, you know, you're doing multiple steps any way you look at it. You're either bringing it into DocuSign and then into Command to avoid downloading it, or you can download it to your computer and then upload it. That's how, those are the two workflows, Anwar. So I'll show you how you can connect it to zip forms, the DocuSign account, in order to avoid downloading, because that's just part of this class that I show. But basically, I know that that process is a tiny bit clunky, but it's just because we're in California, and other states, their MLSs or boards, they'll work with zip forms. Or I mean, I'm sorry, DocuSign. So it's just California, CAR does not like let them have our forms autofill and auto populate the signature fields and stuff like that. So yeah, sorry, that was a long explanation. So back to these three dots here and these special things. So add document, we'll add a document to the checklist that's not already listed. Add comment to checklist is a way to write your compliance person a note. You can start typing in the @ symbol. And then these are the only 3 administrator compliance people. Paulette Johns is the person who does file review for Peninsula. If you're a San Francisco agent, you'll be at Bella Watson and her name will pop up here and you'll be able to select her and then write her a note. And this is useful for if something is, if she tells you something is missing that is required from your file, so your under contract section might get rejected, for example, then you can write her a note and say that form XXXX, the title is not required because XXX. What's the reason? You know, and it has to be a valid reason. You know, you can't, it's not really acceptable to just say, oh, the buyer doesn't want to sign. Really, you need to get everything signed before the close of escrow so that you don't have that problem, because they don't have to sign anything after the close of escrow. So if you're a new agent, that's a newsflash. If you're not a new agent, you probably already know that. So here we go, add reply, and then it's going to basically send her a message and a notification that she received a message on this transaction. Okay, so other things here, this you don't have access to yet, that hasn't been rolled out, but so I'm not going to go over it in this class. Export documents. After you've uploaded everything and your file is complete, if you want to export it and share it to your client so that they have a record, you can protect it with credentials, write the password here. You can select this, or you can deselect that and just, I don't have any items in here, so it's not letting me select them to export, but send documents directly to the client. And then you can also type in let's see, and then it's starting to pull another person who's in my contacts. So the person has to be in your contacts in order for you to add them to this. But it's going to email them a zip folder of everything. Okay, so that's what those 3 buttons are. Now, another thing is they added here the ability to simply drag and drop files. So if I want to, I can open up Finder and I can just drag and drop PDFs into here. Okay, we used to have the ability to import 10 items at one time. They did away with that button because we did have some technical issues with doing it and it actually uploading everything. But this is pretty much how that worked. In fact, it's quicker because it used to have a screen where you could do this with 10 and then you would click upload and then it would make you wait for all 10 to go up. So it's basically the same thing, but quicker. Okay, so I have 2 things added here. Let's say, pretend I've uploaded more. The next step is for you to submit to your market center so they can review. So Paulette or Bella, whoever your compliance person is, they don't know to review something until you submit to MC. One other note is that, I am in the listing appointment phase and stage. On the administrative side, if Bella or Paulette needs to find my opportunity, let's say I forgot to submit, but I think I did, and they go in here to search for 123 Main Street and this opportunity, they actually won't be able to find it unless I'm in an active or later stage or phase. So it has to be active, under contract, or closed. So make sure that you, when it is active, you go into active, right? Once you have the listing agreement signed. All right, now I'm getting back in here, back to documents. So DocuSign, how we get to DocuSign from here is this button in the top right corner, start a transaction. That's going to begin the transaction in DocuSign. Gives me the option here to listing agent 1, listing agent 2 on the transaction room. So this is who will be able to access this through DocuSign rooms, through their own accounts. So Gabby can log into her DocuSign account and she'll see this transaction. All right, and now it's going to, if this is working properly, it's supposed to open up that DocuSign window for me. I'm going to give it a minute. I'm going to refresh. It's taking kind of long. Okay, well, it looks like it created the room and now it turned into go to transaction. So here we go. It's going to prompt me to log in. Okay, so here it is, Nicole Asa listing 123 Main Street. So this is my DocuSign room. If you've used DocuSign before, you've probably used the e-signature tool, which you still have access to. If you click your initials in the top right corner, come down here, switch to e-signature. The difference between e-signature and rooms is You know, when you're in e-signature, how you just have that one inbox and one sent box. If you end up doing 5 transactions at the same time, that becomes quite disorganized and hard to keep them all separate. So this is their product that is specific for real estate. Rooms is basically a separate inbox or file folder for each transaction. So you can upload documents to the room, and then you can send them as envelopes, just like you send an envelope in e-signature. The only difference is when it's signed and complete, it comes back to the room. It's not just in a general inbox. So everything for each transaction stays together and organized. The other parts to this are the details section. So Command will sync some details over to here. And one of the biggest questions I get is how can I get the parties to auto-populate when I am trying to type in who I'm sending it to for signing. Fill out this on the right. So I'm the listing agent. I'm going to be sending to my clients, the sellers, seller 1, seller 2. So I want to make sure that I put their information in there. And then it'll make it really easy when I'm docu-signing them something from here. But again, want to remind you, we don't normally send a ton of stuff from DocuSign directly for signing. We are mainly sending forms that originated zip forms in car.org because those ones pre-fill, auto-populate with our client's information, all the information we need to fill in for the transaction, as well as some of the signature fields and fields that if we bring it into here first, then we have to place all those fields manually, creating more work for us. Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about why it's more beneficial to use this? Does that pretty much cover it, or is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I ended up not using that because of the reason that you just stated, that it doesn't pre-populate. If anyone's ever sent a disclosure packet to their client to fill out, it like takes a good hour to 2 hours to put all the different, on a 60-page disclosure packet, to put all the signature and date boxes and all those types of things. So yeah, for all purchase agreements, all buy rep agreements, I do it via zip forms that then pre-populates everything into DocuSign. So I haven't found DocuSign Room super helpful at this point.
Yeah, and most people don't. Most people don't in California. So I don't get into zip forms much in this meeting because that's a third-party technology, right? It's not something that is used by KWRI, KW. I also don't have an account. So, but zip forms has their own trainings. And it's also fairly easy to use once you get in there. You create your transaction, you can start selecting your forms, and you fill in your client information, and it kind of guides you along the way. It's pretty user-friendly. But other things that Rooms can do that it's useful for is like, I'm going to add a document to here. And by the way, Anwar, here is how you can integrate it with zip forms to pull documents into DocuSign before or after they're signed. And you do need to get your username from your car zip forms settings section. I think it's on like sign in and security. And then the password is not your car password. You actually need to grab your username from your zip forms through car, then go to the front end of Zipform, zipformplus.com, and do like a password recovery. So that's the only way to get your actual zip form password. Because again, it will not work with your car password.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Good to know. It does. It does. That's unfortunate, but yeah, I'm glad I'm doing this now instead of figuring it out when I have a transaction.
Yeah. And then you have this integration turned on, Matt. Do you ever really even use it?
I don't. I did at first, but because of I'm like the type of person who likes to keep all the forms myself onto my own computer Google Drive. So I just end up downloading everything anyways, because it's all one spot.
Yeah. And I mean, it can be easier to Okay, so the other thing is how to add things to the room. If I want to add something from my computer, like a KW form or something like that, I can find it on my desktop or in my downloads here. And honestly, I don't have any forms, I don't think. I'm just gonna now upload something random. Here we go. And that's how you can just upload it here and then work with this document. So one of the reasons that people might use this right now is to split documents like a disclosure package, because that's not something that you can do in zip forms, right, Matt? Not something you can do. Or to combine documents. So
Well, you don't actually get a disclosure packet in zip forms. You get it from externally, and then you put it in
Right.
DocuSign.
yeah.
And if you don't, you can download it from like Disclosures.io as one document or as individual documents. Usually we download it as individual and then put them all in the DocuSign to sign. So,
Got it.
or Disclosures.io lets you feed it directly in DocuSign for signature as individuals. The worst is when someone sends you a disclosure packet back all as one PDF versus individuals, because it's such a pain in the butt to go through and split it when it's 60 different documents.
Yeah. Okay, let me grab another document here. Okay, did not work. No, I'm not. I can add from. So here's some of our KW forms that are in here for this market center. So your office may or may not have these uploaded. I think for SF, I had some of them. I don't know. These aren't even as simple as I can just upload them. DocuSign makes sure that either we have the proper copyright or that they do and can upload, which is why those CAR forms are not available. Okay, so let's see. I can click on a document and then I can click here, document actions. And then I get all these different options. So split, if I want to split it up, move or copy, edit, rename at the top, download, print, etc. So I'm going to actually demonstrate splitting. This is only 2 pages. So let's say the first document is going to be agreement page 1. You can hover over it to zoom. And then agreement page 2. This is how you can split a document. If there were more pages, I would just keep clicking add document, and keep naming and keep on numbering. And then I can click save in the top right. It's going to go ahead and complete the splitting action. It's going to keep the original and then have the split up ones. So there is something coming soon to Command, which is the ability to split documents in Command and attach them to checklist items. So that I didn't go over because it's not live for everybody yet. It's in beta, which is why I have it. But once that goes live, probably we're very rarely going to log in. We're very rarely going to put things in DocuSign like this. We could just use that for e-signing in zip forms. That'll be the purpose of us having those DocuSign accounts, really. Do you agree, Matt?
Sorry, I was replying an email, so I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, okay. So we're getting the ability to split and attach PDFs to actual checklist items when we're doing the splitting in Command. That's one of the things under the 3 dots that I didn't go over. I'm allowed to tell you guys it's coming soon, but I can't show it. It's in beta. After we get that, I mean, Matt, do you see any reason we'll really be using DocuSign, like logging into DocuSign or importing things into there?
Well, I think the split is good for, so for example, right now, when you create a buyer representation agreement, it has a couple forms that are included. So it has not only the buyer rep agreement, but it has the California privacy agreement. It has the fair housing standard agreement. And I think the inspection disclosure are all in one big thing via zip form. So when you send it out to DocuSign, it comes back as one PDF, but Command for Bella wants each of those documents separated out. So that'll be helpful for that, because right now I have to go in and kind of do some manual like saving on my computer to save each of those documents individually. So this will be really helpful for those types of scenarios where it's mushing multiple docs together.
Yeah, you'll be able to split them and attach them to checklist items at the same time. But again, not released yet, but sometime probably soon, because we're testing it right now. So that'll really eliminate a lot of the need to use DocuSign for these types of special features. And then if you are using DocuSign, you know, there is this people section, which these are people that, like Gabby's the other agent on the transaction, and then I have my administrators. If I want to add another agent within Keller Williams to be able to see this room, I can click invite. I have to enter the email address that they are using on their special KW DocuSign account. So it has to be another person with the special KW DocuSign account, and the email associated with that account, and then their name, transaction side. So let's say I'm working Matt, let's say it's Matt Hendry and he's the buy side. I can go ahead and add him here and invite him so he can grab documents if he needs it. Again, not that useful because we don't really use this a ton, but just want to show that feature. And I didn't show how to combine documents. Sorry about that. You just select this little circle in the top left, you select multiples, and then you can combine. So that's how that would work. And then messages. This really just works collaboratively. You have multiple team members in here. History will show every action in the room. So that's it. Any questions about DocuSign at this time?
Nope.
All right, we're gonna go back to Command. 15 minutes left. Okay, so things here back in Command, don't forget, you're gonna submit to MC. If you are using DocuSign as your way to avoid downloading, now that you've connected to the room, you've added a few items there, you can select to attach files from DocuSign. And here's how it will now work. It's now filtering for everything in the DocuSign room. I can click there, it uploaded. I can click there, it uploaded it. And so on. So that's how this now works, which is new. Did not used to work like that. So don't forget to submit to MC once you've uploaded everything, and then move on to that next section and start uploading the next documents that you need. Once you get to the point where you need to request commission, so you need your demand to send to title, you should do this about 7 days before the close of escrow or just after inspections. If inspections are, you know, if it's contingent. So once you know you're finalized, like cost, commissions, the sales price, there's going to be no changes. You can add an offer. You just need to add the winning offer, but you can use this to enter all offers if it's a listing and pull an offer comparison. So I'm not going to have time to go over that today, but you would just enter the multiple offers and you would be able to pull that offer comparison in this section. And basically it's going to put them side by side, and it's going to put the terms side by side. And here's what information it takes. So version, name of the offer, offer date, close date. So estimate the close date based on the offer. No, let's say it's going to be a 14-day close or 15-day close. Parties, just need to put the buyer name. Let's put Matt Hendry. And let's say Matt's representing himself. And then you want to write like maybe probably pre-approved or pre-qualified. terms. You put the cash amount here, and then the finance amount here, and it will auto-calculate the sales price. Earnest amount's usually about 3%. Also, you can always type it in, and then it'll calculate the percent. Option fee, termination option, seller costs. If you don't have that information, no need to fill it out. Most of that we don't use. Move on to the agent analysis, and then you have the opportunity to enter pros and cons in a summary. This comes in handy if you're doing that offer comparison, and your pros and cons will show up for every offer that you enter. You can pull that and give it to your client. And then save, boom. And to move on to the commission portion, which is in this same section that I'm in, I want to go ahead and accept this offer. Now these buttons have changed, and I can move forward to manage commission. Okay, I never filled out the contract date. So, okay. First, we're going to edit the general information, make sure it's complete. So contract date was the 16th today. Save changes. And it's pulling the sales price, commission rate, and total commission from where I filled those fields out before. So commission rate was in the details section of the opportunity. Total commission and sales price it pulled from the offer. Units, every transaction allots 1 unit to this side of the transaction. So if you or your team is representing both the buyer and seller of a transaction, you want to have 2 opportunities. You only need to complete the paperwork on one of them. And then also you may have some additional documents on the buyer side that you're not going to upload to the listing checklist because they're not on there. However, you don't need to complete both checklists to the full if you're double ending it. You do want the 2 opportunities for the commission portion, because again, it's going to just, the highest it's going to go is 1 unit on this side, and you want credits for both sides. So that's why you would create 2 opportunities. It's just for the commission and the units. So this is my side of the commission, and this is my side of the total commission. So philanthropic deductions, it's going to prompt me to donate. Okay, so a couple things here. If you have a co-broker, like let's say I co-listed this with Matt, you would want to add Matt's commission in here. Now, that would be if Matt was outside of our company in another brokerage. So let's say he's with another KW office. This is where I would enter him. But Matt and I, actually, I think I'm in the Peninsula account. So you're not in this brokerage. But if the agent is within our same office, you can use this add another agent. It'll find anyone in our office, not just on your team if you're on a team, but in your office. So I can do Debbie Sharp. Here's Debbie Sharp. Okay, so let's say I'm just giving her 10% for helping me. There's an easy way for me to calculate that out without giving her units. I'm just going to put 0.1 units and then use this to calculate the commission. And then I'm going to zero this out again. So I just use that to calculate what was 10% of my gross commission to give her. That's all. And then again, I'm giving the unit back to myself. All right, and then her company commission stuff is going to auto-calculate based on her splits. And then deductions, like if you're sharing that BRLG fee or you need to enter that here, you would enter that here. But I'm going to do the whole BRLG fee to me. So I'm going to click Save Changes here. Okay, and here is where my commission is. This was already in here. And then here's where my royalty it's not calculating here, it's gonna calculate it here. So this is how much I'm paying towards my royalty. 2,700. So this yellow represents that 2,700. I'm almost paid up on royalty. I just have a little bit more. This is how much I'm paying towards my cap. So let's see, where's my company commission? 13,500. That's this yellow part here. So these zeros, they represent nothing. They're really not accurate here. KW is working on an update on that to make that more accurate and reflect the correct percentage for how much you're paying in on this transaction. But just look at the yellow part for now.
It also doesn't update in real time. So like if you had two closings happening and you were close to capping, like the numbers get a little funky because one of your first closing might get you over your cap, and then your second one is going to be calculating off of what you were not counting that first closing, if that makes sense. So you just have, if you have questions, I just reach out to my MCA and ask,
Yeah.
and then they clear it up.
Yeah, and then even if, you know, in here, it's not showing in real time in our system where we're actually creating the demand, it's pulling it based on your actual in real time cap. So that demand will be correct. And again, the update KW is working on for this, it should fix that issue too. We'll see, fingers crossed, but I don't know when that update's coming. So I need to now edit my payment because I gave Debbie I gave her 10%. So now in order to calculate how much I get, again, I'm kind of doing this in a little bit of a cheat way. So just so I don't have to do it on a calculator. 90% of the transaction is that in relation to units, and I'm going to use that to calculate my commission. Now I'm going to bump my units back to 1 because remember, I'm taking the whole unit. I'm not giving Debbie. She's just getting some of the commission. And then the royalty stuff, company commission is automatic. E&O, we don't pay out of this to E&O Gold Scholarship. If I want to donate, or KW Cares, KW Kids you can donate here, net to agent, and then deductions. So if you have a transaction coordinator or you need to add the BRLG fee, which everyone needs to add it as a deduction here. The amount 129, don't need the tax ID, description BRLG. And then I don't need to put their actual location. I'm just going to put the office because Tara will go ahead and put the correct one. And then the phone number really doesn't matter. So I'll put my own. All right, and then save changes. And then on the right, there's a summary of everything. Of course, I can look at the very detailed information on the left. And on the right here, total commission, paid to the office, royalty, company commission, let's see, paid to the agents, and then the other deductions for the 129. I can add a note at the bottom if there's anything else I need to tell the MCA about this, or let's just say I couldn't get the numbers right. I couldn't figure out how to get something to balance out. I can go ahead and add a note here for that. And click submit. And then it's going to ask me if I want to donate again. Skip Danielle's, skip Debbie's, and then I can go ahead and submit that commission request. Again, you want to make sure you do this, not the day that you need that demand, but at least 7 days before, or you can do it as soon as you're finished with inspections and everything comes up good. So you know nothing with the sale is going to change. All right, lastly, there is this note section. So if you're a team, you know, this can come in super handy if multiple team members need to write notes to each other on this opportunity. And then the timeline, which shows what was updated, what's been reviewed by each person. So it tells what I've done. If Gabby had done anything on this transaction, it would tell what she updated, what fields she changed, or did she fill out the commission request. And that's everything, you guys. Matt, did I miss anything?
No, you didn't. Although it's obviously easier said than done. You know, going through this process is like, you kind of, I think there ends up being a lot of back and forth. Did you go over the chat part between like what the compliance team can do? Okay.
Actually, Matt, so I did, but this is a transaction that I just started. Do you have one that you can show to us that has approved and rejected and maybe some messages in it so that you can show kind of what those things look like?
Yep.
Let me give you co-host permissions.
I have to think of one that I had back and forth on. Hold on.
Okay.
So this was a new construction. So new construction is always fun because there are some forms that are included and some forms that are not. Unlike resale, that is very standard on all the different forms that you need to do. So there was some conversations about, you know, what was going on. So as you can see here, there were comments like, hey, page one is missing, page one is missing seller. There were some other forms in here that were required that we weren't able to get. Hold on just a second. Let me get. So as you can see, like, for example, if I go here to the notes, we had a whole conversation back and forth about, you know, hey, do they have a budget? Hey, unfortunately, it's new construction, so I have one. And the seller was refusing to provide a budget. We attached an email thread that outlines that. And then Bella was like, okay, thanks for at least doing your due diligence to get that information. So if I look, you know, there's some things that are marked as required that we end up not being able to provide. And so those things end up getting identified here. Or we ended up uploading things like, I'm trying to find an example. Where was the budget? Let me just find budget. So require the budget. So then my TC attached the email saying, here's all the documents that we weren't able to, we're not going to provide you because that's new construction. So like we just took a screenshot of that whole thing and they just said that they, which ones they would and wouldn't be providing. So like, please note for a file, we will not be signing or sending all these documents. So we just attached that in there and then Bella has that for her records that we aren't including those types of things, and then she approved that budget was missing. Anything else you want me to show, Danny?
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you showing that. Well,
and the other, I was going to show you the other thing that you can see is in the timeline. You can see all the back and forth. So like obviously it's, you know, there's a lot of like adding things, replacing things, and so you can like see the whole history. So kind of cool how you can go into your document and understand exactly when things were uploaded or changed or requested, etc. If you're ever trying to like figure something out for a past transaction, it's all documented there. So.
And then would your TC have access to that and be doing it, or do you do that yourself?
So
if you didn't have a TC?
Yeah, so I did my first couple transactions, I did all myself just to learn the process and learn all the documents. So definitely encourage new agents to kind of do that. And obviously make sure you're partnering with your mentor to make sure you're doing everything right. But then I moved to a TC, which is like $400 to $450. Some TCs charge more. So you really need to kind of get some volume of units in before you start outsourcing to a TC, I think. So.